All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Opsnick here. It's going to be your SITREP. It is 12/28/2023 as we head into the new year, 2024. And it is not without a lot of concern. As we get into a lot of the deets, we're going to be talking today about the water and the fact that we need to be keeping our eyes on this stuff because there is a new data point that has just surfaced. We're going to talk about that. And then also we're going to talk about the flights as always. What's going on, what's on the move. It is a light week because of the time of year, but there is still a lot of stuff going on that we need to be very cognizant of. And we're going to get into all of that. I'm telling you, we'll look at the border. As always, we're going to look at the Swift flights. We're going to do the roll-up stuff. I'm going to show you again what is coming in, where they are going. And I'm even going to give you some of the tail numbers off to the side. So you can stop and pause and grab those for yourself if you really want the deets on where these things are going. So, okay, let that set in and let's get into peeling this banana. And so we started out over here in Skyglass. Again, if you haven't joined us on Patreon, we'd love to have you. It's right here. And that is patreon.com/monkeyworksus. It's a growing community and it is an amazing community. You will love it once you're there. I promise you. So, all right, light week, sitting at 96 up. I've already stripped out some trainers. We've got about 21 Tex 2s and some T38s that are up, but it is very light. There's only 22 of those that I've taken out of, usually right here in the center. So there is that aspect. Now, let's look at the air refuelers, because that, again, always tells the story. As we look into the fuel, you're going to just notice that, too, is a little bit light, but we do have some interesting coverage here. I'm looking down in the Virgin Islands, and I'm not seeing anything out here, although I know it's there. I just not seeing it. So we get up a little bit further north, and you're just going to notice, for some strange reason, we've got a lot of coverage over the Northeast in terms of fighter aircraft, right? Again, air refuelers, a very, very good indicator of fighter activity. Then we get over here, and there, I know for a fact it's up. We just aren't seeing it. Okay, so let's just, it is what it is. So we'll move on back over here to the menu. Let's get into the deets. Let's talk watch list first and foremost. And you can see this just kind of like a soup bowl here. Around the southern side, those are going to be mil intel balloons up over the northwest. And then you can see I just flashed the survey flights. We took a lot of those out. There's about 25 of those up, I guess, roughly. And all of this is Homeland Security, right? As we head into the new year, our border is wide slap open. And you can see there is a little E2 that's going to be a Navy variant, little small aircraft carrier version that launches off that handles air traffic control as well as advanced early warning and all that other stuff. Same thing AWACS does, just a little mini me version. Those are going to be German intel balloons. All right, we'll back it up. Nothing else over Europe. I see a little Navy P3 over here near Portugal, and that is a Portuguese P3 Orion. And then notice that little Q4 does a little route over Malta and then back out. Notice where it is located there off of Israel in Lebanon, right? That's because that area is starting to heat up like a junkie spoon, as we always say. And the other little NA there to the left, that's another drone that's kind of out over Turkey, right? All right. Back over. Let's go. We looked at that aspect. Let's look at the intel. Now, again, it's very light, but just notice that one that bounces out of Tucson and heads up towards kind of that California coastline, borderline. Little one up over New Mexico that looked to be headed up towards Albuquerque. And then we've got this looks to be a transition coming back over to Europe. And then, of course, you can see around Kaliningrad, looking at Belarus. This one's the one that I think is probably more concerning than anything else because it doesn't make any sense as to what they're doing in Romania other than looking at Serbia, but very, very active and busy. I think they're concerned about something there. We'll continue to watch that. Out over the Mediterranean, of course, you get that because we got troops and we got aircraft carriers and all kinds of stuff out there. They're looking at Libya closely. because Russia is in Libya. And then notice that one looking very closely at Gaza. All right. Now, let's see. Let's look at Homeland Security. Now, you would think this would be just super busy. This is the last 3 days, really. I mean, you see it there, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, when we're hearing record numbers, right? You see that broken trace headed down into South America and the Caribbean, coming out of Tampa down to Puerto Rico, around the bottom of Florida. It's pretty light. Not really much to speak of, okay? All right, let's talk C-17s. Again, pretty light, but just notice the same main points. Notice that broken trace looking like it's going to Hawaii. And some very pointed areas. When I show you the swift flights, you're going to see that they kind of go into the same spots. Coincidence maybe, but something definitely is amiss. Now, remember I showed you the flights that went down to the Virgin Islands, right? I said, man, that's weird. I've never seen C-17s go down to the Virgin Islands. Well, we know why now, and we'll get into that when we talk about Flashbang. Evidently, he has ridden another horse somewhere. And then there's some broken traces into the Middle East because they don't want you seeing where they're going, who they're picking up. Right down into Egypt, over into Qatar, UAE. Right. Notice a lot of flights in and out of Malta. Okay. All right. Now, let's get into the details here. This one, we have talked about for a very long time. People have been saying, watch the water, and nobody really knew what it meant. This may not even be what it means, but I'm just telling you to watch the water. This new shocking discovery, they're saying the viral levels of the Big C in the water supply has skyrocketed. Look at these colors. Now, the darker reds are severe. Okay, we'll kind of zoom in on it so you can see, just break it out there. The dark reds are severe. This is high, so these would be severe, right? And these are minimum, okay? These are low, right? And then these aren't reporting. So now the interesting thing about this is you have to go, all right, well, wait a minute. When we were in the prime, dead center of the pandemic, did this occur? And I don't think it did. So that tells you there's something else going on here. Now you go, well, all right, well, how do we prevent that? Well, I would tell you good luck, right? Yeah, you can get water filters and sure, it's coming out of, your fridge or whatever it may be. That's probably not going to be enough to stop it. You can boil your water, 100%. That'll kill it. But what about things like brushing your teeth? Okay. The simple things like, making coffee or, cause that's not quite hot enough probably to kill a virus. Just anything and everything, right? Taking showers, all the other stuff. It gets in everywhere. So you can't prevent it. That's the scary thing. Okay. Now, let me show you something else because this one right here is going to kind of open your eyes a little bit. Remember, the United States, the states of United States. Okay. We're the hinge pin for everything. Economy, whatever happens here trickles out everywhere else. Okay. The US dollar collapses, it impacts the rest of the world. There are so many different things. If our military collapses, it impacts the rest of the world. Anything and everything that happens in the United States basically filters out, goes around the world. Now look at this for a second. You may remember this. This is from the Great Reset. Okay. Now, why is that important? Well, let me show you something here. You're not going to be able to see it because that's an eye chart. Let me show you this. What is that right there? What do you see right over there? Water crisis. You think that's a coincidence? Right? Yeah. You know what else you see on here? You get down to this side of it right here. What does that say? Right here above my head. Yeah. Terrorist attacks. Okay. Yeah. This stuff, I'm telling you, all planned. 1,000,000%. So All right, back to the mini. So pay close attention to this. I don't really know the answer. There are some filters that you can get that hold out 99.99%, and at least maybe you mitigate your exposure. But I mean, everything from brushing your teeth to just, you go look at bottle processing, right? Whether it's alcohol, like beer or something like that. Alcohol may kill it, but Coca-Cola, right? What do they fill in those bottles? It's water, right? So anything and everything, sodas, it's anything that we use water for. And then you talk about water crisis and this viral load happening across the United States. So then you go, well, how does it get in there? Well, I looked it up, and the only thing I can see is waste, bodily waste, and some type of contamination other than bodily waste. So, yeah. Again, even at our peak, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, everybody was in lockdown, I don't think this ever happened. So there's definitely something amiss here, folks. All right, moving on. Let's take a look at the Swift Air flights. This is your immigrant machine. Remember, this is a private charter. This doesn't account for all of the just astronomically high commercial airline flights from like American, Delta, United, Southwest, et cetera, that are also doing this. This is just strictly ones that we have been able to pinpoint, because trying to look at the others, it's a needle in a haystack, other than people's testimony saying, hey, I sat next to 50 of them on my last flight to, Detroit, whatever it may be. But notice again, big trend here is that we see it interior of the United States. If we go over to the Swift flights and we look at the last 3 days, I left the list off to the left of your screen there. Sorry, yeah, that'd be your left. Basically giving you a breakdown of the tail numbers. Okay, so if you want the deets and where they're flying, et cetera. But just notice right in the middle of the states, right? Ohio, Pittsburgh, right in the middle of Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's to the not dead center, but it's pretty in the meat of things. And then Florida, Coral Gables, imagine that. And then that one coming out of Central America. Now you go, okay, well, what do we do about this, right? Well, that's a good question, because actually, let me go back to the Swift. I gave you a roll up last time, and this is obscene, but that right there, that looks like just a bunch of yarn or a kid scribbling on a coloring paper, right? Definitely did not stay inside the lines on this one. Layers upon layers upon layers, 5,575 flights. Okay, last 365 days. Covered up, interior of our country. Okay, that's all you need to know. All right, so go back over to here. You look at the Swift flights. Now, what do we do? Well, I will tell you, even if you don't live in the state of Texas, you need to drop this guy a line. It's very, very simple and easy. And all you do is just click on, I want to share my opinion. I would ask you, if you send him something, be professional, be smart about what you say, because you could get a lot of attention if you come in there hot and heavy. Just be, to the point, and just as simple as close the border, right? But this guy right here, most of what you just saw with the Swift flights are coming into Texas, and then they're getting sent out, whether it's DoD charters or whether it's, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest, whoever. Okay. But go over there and do that. If you don't know how to find this, let me just give you the link, make it easy for you, but just, write this down. All right. This is it right here. Okay. It's gov.texas.gov. Yeah, kind of easy to remember, /contact. That'll take you straight to that landing page I just showed you right here. Again, click on I want to share my opinion. Yes, it'll ask for an email address, but that's okay, right? And just say, stop the influx, stop the border. And look, here's the reality of this, though. Even if we stop, and let's say they close the southern border here, right? You still got Arizona and California you got to mess with. They'll just do it from there. But let's say we completely shut down the southern border, and somebody stopped the insanity and said, if you come into our country illegal, you're going to jail, right? And you're going to be deported immediately. We'll call you once you're cleared to come into the court system that's backlogged for next 20 years. Okay. Now, even if you were to stop that, let me tell you, the current regime that is in office would do nothing more than simply start flying them direct out of Mexico, Central America, and South America straight into our countries. They would just put a passport waiver on there, and then we'd have them backlogged in our airports at customs. And so that's how this would happen. Okay. But this still needs to be shut because we're being invaded. Have you noticed that virtually every picture we see of the migrants that are coming into our country, the illegals, are male, fighting age male, not a bunch of 75-year-old guys, okay? They're all young, fighting age males from every walk of life. And then you see some poor female that's mixed in the middle of all of that, and I cannot imagine what that poor girl has gone through, or woman, amongst all of those males to try and get here, okay? But still, either way, it's not good, okay? All right, let's move on. We talked about that. We talked about Abbott. Let's talk about this piece. New York City mayor restricts bus arrivals to stem migrant surge, right? You get up in New York, and all of a sudden, the Democrats are like, oh, hey, wait a minute here. We're going to restrict the buses coming in. Yeah. Well, guess what? If you did that in Texas, you'd have a lawsuit on your hands because the feds are tying their hand, all right, or their hands. And so absolutely ridiculous. But hey, you know what? The people in New York, I think, are starting to get fed up with this as well. Check this out. He's sounding the alarm since last spring, which he has said more than 160 asylum seekers have come into his city. Well, I will tell you, we get more than that. Matter of fact, we just got more than that in the last Christmas weekend, all right, at the southern border here in Texas. So, yeah, a record, by the way. All right, let's talk about Flashbang and the horse he rode in on. This is for Thursday. Yeah, I was telling you there was some really strange flights headed down to the Virgin Islands. I said, I don't think I've ever seen C-17s go down there. Is that air defense? What is that? Because this hadn't been broadcasted yet. Well, guess what? We figured it out. Biden lands in St Croix with First Lady Jill and granddaughter Natalie, 19, for New Year's Caribbean vacation and a free stay at a beachfront villa of a billionaire Democrat donor. So, yeah, that's where he is. That's why we're seeing it. That makes a lot of sense. And anyway, let's move on to the next. All right. Now, this will take you down there. You can see the TFR. We can also go over here to the weather side of the house, and you can see the TFR down there over the area. You know it's him because it is a rather large TFR. And, yeah, can't imagine what's going on down there. But, yeah, Florida getting rain once again, and the West Coast, again, another just big round of slop coming in. Back to back to back to back, and another wave looks to be headed over as well. All right, minimize that. That's really the only big TFR we've got. Again, this is the turbulence, as you can see. And, all right, let's do this. I do want to take a look. I do see some interesting new areas. Keep in mind, right here at the northern border between Lebanon and Israel is super duper heating up. I mean, you can see Israel is popping things off inside of the Lebanese border big time. And it's been about a week now of some pretty continuous pops up here. Okay. All right. Moving on. Okay, Russia, Iran officially ditched the U.S. dollar in trade. All right, so those are the first two, part of BRICS, and it's going to continue on. We already know that, but that is now official. They're not trading or buying oil in the U.S. dollar anymore. And so I find it interesting that Iran, who is clearly an enemy of ours, but continues to get funding, and they somehow just blatantly tell you, hey, you can give me whatever you want. You're still the infidel. It doesn't matter. All right. So here's the other piece. Total breakdown so far of the Department of Energy oil purchases to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. You've heard us talk a lot about that. But the interesting thing is, check this out. It says the DOE announced Tuesday it has awarded contracts for its December purchase of 3 million barrels of crude oil for the SPR, the United States Emergency Supply of Petroleum. This brings a total amount of oil purchased in 2023 to 13.8 million. Sorry, no B, there's just an M. 13.8 million barrels. Now, let me give you a little data point for you. The United States consumes about 20 million barrels of oil a day. So when we're buying 3 million, you're not even you're into hours of a day in terms of what you have. All right. A drop in the bucket. The administration attempts to refill the reserve after selling off more than 40% of its stockpile. That to me is, again, just like our southern border being wide open, it's treason, right? You are basically creating a security risk for the United States. All right. Here we go. On over to this piece. Under the fantastic Bidenomics, banks terminate 60,000 workers in one of the bleakest years for the industry since 2008. Well, what happened in 2008? Oh, yeah, we went into a massive recession. So this right here is probably on the front end of a bank collapse, if I had to guess, all right? So anyway, that right there is a data point for you. You may remember we talk about things like this, right? When we started talking about the fall of Rome, comparing it to the United States, economic troubles, heavy taxation, right? Resilience on slave labor. That's, I guess you could really say we are slaves when it comes to taxation and everything else in this country. But they're saying, they faced inflation, et cetera, and overproduction of currency, which is exactly what we see happening right now. All right. Okay. Here you go. Another one here. Iran rapidly increases production of near weapons grade uranium. Well, listen, had we given them like $9 billion in the last month or 2 months, or $400 million in untraceable dollars on an airplane or several airplanes, just as the previous regime before Trump exited, or maybe released all of their sanctions, then we probably would have something to worry about here. But I don't think there's anything to worry about because we haven't done anything like that. But I do find it very interesting that when Iran somehow gets their hands on the things that they need to continue on with their nuclear program, that the United States seems to be in lockstep with a news release about something, whether it be a release of money that was held up by sanctions, whether it was sanctions themselves being released. Either way it goes, again, this is a treasonous act by the United States government to fund a terrorist organization in a country, because you know where it ends up, right in the hands of Hezbollah and right into the hands of a country that wants to see us and Israel disappear. So then you go, okay, well, wait a minute. You mentioned Israel. Well, why is that important? Well, if the United States just put a carrier group and we put all these things in the Red Sea, we're clearly there to protect Israel. I would say, are we? Do you think that's really what's going on here? Or did we put that carrier group in place to tie the hands of Israel? Right? Think about that for a minute. Because clearly all of the other things that we have done in the region has not been to help Israel. We deny them on their requirement or request when they want to buy more Apaches. We fund and train the West Bank Palestinians, right? We give them weapons grade vehicles, okay, full battle rattle with all the armor and everything that goes into it. we fly everybody and their brother in and out of Gaza into our own personal country. I see no indication, in addition to what we're looking at right here on the screen, that the United States is actually for Israel. Right? We're trying to tell Netanyahu what he can and cannot do during this period. We're telling him when he needs to wrap it up. We're telling him if you don't follow what we're telling you to do, we're going to withhold everything from you, right? We're not going to give you the weapons, the money, anything else that you want, which to my knowledge, the money, we haven't given them anything to my knowledge. Remember, we basically tied that and tried to bundle it with the Ukraine thing that killed that. So anyway, just a data point for you, but I'm telling you. All right, let's look at the cyber attacks. You can see, again, the United States is getting lit up right now. I would imagine this is probably our biggest threat right now on the horizon, because if they get in, shut down water systems, which actually may not be a bad thing, but take out our utilities or any type of critical infrastructure, it would definitely make us, man, that's pretty heavy today. Mercy. Yeah, it'd make us very susceptible from a strategic defense standpoint. Oh, would you look at that? Isn't that cute? I mean, who knew that, a father and son like this could be reunited? Anyway, let's go down a little further here. For your Boha Moment, U.S. releases its final package of authorization from military aid to Ukraine. So it looks like the coffers have run dry. Keep in mind, 155 millimeter right here and 105 millimeter are the two artillery ammunitions of choice that's being included in this package. Anti-armor munitions, 15 million rounds of ammunition. Yeah, all of the body armor, everything else that they need. Yeah, $250 million of your tax dollars headed to there. Meanwhile, U.S. military force at an 80-year low. The Pentagon urges a national call to service. Get ready, folks. It's coming. I'm telling you, as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow morning, this is going to lead into your, the draft. Let's just put it that way. That's coming because they're not hitting the numbers. We've been talking about the fact that they are unable to get anywhere close to what they need. And they're now putting in money, $886 billion, into the National Defense Authorization Bill to try and raise the money to get the troops. Saying the number is going to drop to 1.2 million for 2024. They said they haven't seen that kind of number since pre-World War II in 1941. All right. Here we go. The shrunken arsenal, an alarming decline of U.S. munitions. Zero Hedge put it out there. Yeah, we've been talking about this as well. Not good as everything starts to kind of percolate and heat up across the Middle East and around the world. We are now down to what we would say critical reserves in terms of, look, we had to go and borrow just a boatload. I think it was 500,000 rounds of 155 millimeter artillery from South Korea, right? We had to borrow it. So anyway, not good, right? Not good at all. So, all right, let's get into the base and take a look at what we've got going. I just quickly, you can see a lot of Gleck stuff going on here. We have an Atlas Air 747 coming in, which I find very interesting, coming in from Taiwan. That's really interesting. I don't know what to make of that, but I do know that we are taking Taiwanese and we are training them here in the United States because we had someone have a conversation with some Taiwanese that were standing in a line getting on one of those white buses, actually in Chicago, and they were headed to be trained here in the United States. Okay, data point for you. All right, here we go. You see some 747s inbound, Western Global and Coletta coming in. Of course, that right there is also a Coletta, but that's usually your other people coming in, smaller flight out of Dover. And then we'll just look at Ramstein. As you can see, it is, we got a lot of stuff coming in. Some reach flights, camber flight, more reach, more camber. right? These are going to be troop movements more than likely because of the aircraft type, right? 777 and 67s. Then this is RZE Poland forward operating base. I don't see anything on there except for one coming direct from Columbus, Ohio, and that is a Rickenbacker, and that's a 747 Coletta coming in, but that's all I see. That's probably going to be some M1 Abrams, all right? And then here, Camber Flight's very active and busy, but just notice where they are all coming in and out of. You guessed it. Look at them stacked up. 67, 747, 747, and a 767 all coming out. Look at this, Middle East and Malta. All right, nothing on the board there from Omni. They just landed. This is Omni. And looks like we've got one headed into, let's see, Yokota Air Base. So that is Tokyo and from Seattle, and then Eglin up to Ontario, or over to Ontario, California. And then National Cargo coming out of Mexico City. That's interesting. Let me back that up just a little, go up a little, because there is some, looks like everything's headed down to South America. My guess is we're stacking some troops up down here, if I had to guess. Now, the Mexico City piece I don't get, but yeah, I think because we know there's some stuff going on down here in South America, we are starting to position some military resources. I doubt it's for anything else, like bringing migrants in. But anyway, okay, this is a Royal Transport, and I'm going to just back it up a little bit. Look to be bailing out of Europe, headed back to England. NATO, and I got nothing on the board for NATO. And then, of course, Fort Carson, nothing on the board for Fort Carson. And you go, why are you looking at Fort Carson? Well, I got eyes on it for various reasons. Can't really tell you why just yet, but we're just watching for traffic to see if we catch anything going in and out of there. But all right, well, listen, that is going to do it for today's SITREP. And if you would, we won't see the majority, the masses, again until after the New Year. So just I would encourage you to stay vigilant. And stay frosty, as always. That's part of being vigilant. And keep that powder dry, because God knows when this thing goes off, it's gonna shock the world, and it's gonna shock us. And we have to be ready to react. And so you need to have a plan and multiple plans, and think about things, because you don't want to be trying to think of that while things are kind of that fog of war going on. All right. And last, if you want peace, prepare for war. All right, that's it. You guys be safe. We'll see you next year. God bless. Monkey out. Thanks for watching, folks. You can check out the latest gear and products by selecting the QR code on your screen now, or go to monkeyworksus.com.